Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. In today's episode, we are going to discuss Letitia James. Letitia James is probably going around doing a lap of victory because she succeeded in being able to stop Donald Trump from getting this bond. I guess he needs this bond to make an appeal, but this bond that she wanted him to get was pretty much impossible. I think he needed a $456 million bond, but nobody's willing to grant him the bond because of the amount of the bond. Anywho, so I'm going to show you a clip about what's his name? Kevin O'Leary. He had his own personal take on this thing Letitia James is doing to Donald Trump. And we're going to talk about some smaller stories. Of course, your girl is in the media again, Tiffany Haynard. I call it Haynard, but it's Henyard. Tiffany Henyard is in the media again on the proposal that they tried to pass yesterday. So we'll talk about that shortly. And also the main story of the hour, Don Lemon. Okay, last week I talked about Don Lemon from getting fired on his day off. He actually didn't really have a signed contract for exclusive content with X, him and Elon Musk. They didn't have a signed contract, but it was in the talks. But you know, I made the assumption that Don Lemon was being a prima donna, and he wanted all these things with his contract. And after watching this interview, is nothing. I don't even think the money was the issue with Elon Musk. I think it's totally with Don Lemon's IQ. Okay, we're just going to put it right there. Okay, so you guys, that's what we're going to talk about on today's episode of Business Talk.
Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bap. What? This is what you call a bap. Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bap. What? This is what you call a bap.
Okay, you guys put in the chat. Let me know where you're viewing from. Put in the chat. Let me know where you're viewing from. Let me see who we have in the building. For some reason, lately my stream has not been telling me how many people I have in the building, but I'm just going off of people, what you're putting in text. Okay, we have Noble Young, Kennard the DJ. What's the word? Headley Grange is good to see you. Headley says the country has been destroyed because of voter ignorance and stupidity. The laws, rules, and regulations in this country don't apply to wealthy people in power or Democrats in elected office. That's a good point that you pointed out. Democrats truly believe, and this is like the extreme left. I'm not for sure about the middle of the road Democrats, but the extreme left Democrats truly believe that they have the normal working people in mind, and that's absolutely not true. Actually, you know, if you really think about some of the laws and regulations and some of the things that policies that have been passed by Democrats, it only has like the really, really poor in mind, people that want social services, and the really, really wealthy in mind. Not the working class. It doesn't have the working class. If it's not for the people like you and me. And those are policies that's been put in place for years, for years by Democrats. And we could talk about education. We could talk about policing. We could talk about even voter rights. We could talk about abortion rights. We could talk about women's rights. Let's put it. I don't want to just say abortion, but women's rights. But all of these things that we could talk about and list the policies that's been put in place, even what you call the diversity and equity inclusion, we could even bring that up. And it doesn't have you and me, the working person, in mind. It only gives the advantage to the person that really ain't doing nothing, really. or the super wealthy. Okay. Anyway, so thank you for tuning in. And Lexi, thank you for joining us. You guys, let's get to our first story of the hour. And this is on your girl, Tiffany Henyard. Tiffany, remember I showed you yesterday because it was their primary election. I don't know why it keeps on doing this. It was their primary election in Illinois. And of course, Donald Trump won the primary. Okay. I mean, it's nobody's. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have other people on the ballot, but he won. And of course, Joe Biden, he won his primary, but there's nobody running against him. Anyway, so Joe Biden and Donald Trump, they won the primary. And of course, we're going to see them facing each other in November. Well, I showed you yesterday that Tiffany Henyard had this punch ticket, and she wanted everybody to make sure that they voted for a straight ticket, a Democrat, whatever ticket. It did, and on this punch ticket, and I didn't read at the bottom of it, it had this proposal. And this proposal was for mental health tax in Thornton Township proposed by Tiffany Henyard. And it failed. Okay, so this is the news report for it.
One issue that represents a relatively small group of people in the south suburbs is a tax to support new mental health services to be offered by bucks to $100,000 home. Not too controversial, right? But it is in this case because township super to be offered by Thornton Township. It would have added about $42 to $100,000 home. Not too controversial, right? But it is in this case because Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard has faced an onslaught of criticism after our reporting on her lavish spending on first-class travel, meals at high-end restaurants, and claims that she retaliates against her critics. In fact, this tax that was on the ballot to support mental health services, 11 of 17 South suburban mayors came out against it. They essentially said, vote no, we don't trust what Tiffany Henyard will do with the money.
Okay, and apparently people listen because look at this. This is the result tonight from that. 38% of the people voted yes, but the 62%, that's what counts, voting no, saying they do not support that referendum for Thornton Township mental health tax.
This is my daughter, Aya.
So that proposal failed. You see, Tiffany Henyard is trying to get, some more money for her little purse for her own personal use, apparently. And one thing I wanted to point out, 11 out of the 16 mayors in the township said, no, do not support this because they don't trust Tiffany Henyard. So I believe even if the feds don't come in time enough before the election, I believe Tiffany Henyard will be a one-term township supervisor and a one-term mayor of the village of Dalton. Okay, that's what my beliefs are. Okay, so we're going to move, and that's all I'm going to say about that. We're going to move to our next story. Oh, I got one more thing to say. What the hell is a mental health tax? What is a mental health tax, people? What is it? Somebody put it in chat. I don't know what it, but you're taxing the residents for mental health. Shouldn't they have like Obamacare or some type of insurance? But now you're trying to tax the residents on mental health. I'm quite unsure about what the proposal, what were you going to use the money for? Anyway. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, we're going to go to our next story. Now, Letitia James, she is being basically dragged by Kevin O'Leary and some other people that are residents of New York City and some people that are invested in commercial real estate or just invested in your property. I mentioned this a long time ago, and this was sometime in October when they first started trying Donald Trump on this misevaluation or in what they call inflated valuation. I'm a real estate owner, And my take on things is if they could do it to a most powerful person like Trump, Donald Trump, to his properties, what can they do to the little person? Okay, they could just come on in and say, "Oh, we don't like your evaluation of your home, even though you've been paying your bills on time. We just don't like your evaluation of your home. Sorry, we're going to take it away from you." And this is what I feel when the government steps in on the American dream. Okay, so anybody that agrees with Letitia James' action and parading her and saying, "Oh, she's our hero," just because you don't like Donald Trump, shame on you. Okay, shame on you. You are the main reasons why we have these problems where the government gets into our business. The government shouldn't be allowed to tell you whether or not you evaluated your property more than what you said it was. Everybody does it. When you go in to get your property evaluated and you trying to get a second mortgage or whatever, refinance your house, you want the best amount that they could give you. And if you don't believe, this happened before. This happens a lot, particularly to Black individuals. I don't know if you guys heard of The Banker, the movie. If you haven't watched it, watch The Banker. It's based off a true story. They gave these guys 3 years, 2 Black guys, because they decided to say have a white representative, because back in the 60s, they didn't allow Black folks to own commercial properties. They end up acquiring 177 properties, commercial properties. And the banks found out about it. Actually, the government found out about it and got pissed off that these 2 Black men beat them at their own game. Now, this is nothing to do with Donald Trump saying him inflating his properties, but this guy paid his notes back. He didn't rob from nobody. I had somebody tag me on their response. I tweeted one thing, they tagged me on their response 8 times. It's like trying to prove their point why Letitia James was right. It's horrific. Letitia James is not right. You just because you don't like a person and how much money they got, you don't have the right to come in and say, "Oh, you committed a crime and you made up a crime. Nobody was hurt, but you made up something to do." Anyway, this is Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary is slamming Letitia James in this, and actually, this is pretty funny to watch, because this lady in the middle, she is upset that Kevin O'Leary has his point of view. But you got to think about it. He's heavily invested in New York. If you do it to the president of the United States or former president, you can do it to me.
Seizing. I don't think this case is about Trump anymore. I think this case is about New York. It's about the American brand. It's about what we promised the world in terms of fairness and justice and investing capital in a country that's built the largest economy on earth. Forfeiture, seizing of assets, is that in our nomenclature in America? Is that what we tell people that want to bring their money here and protect property rights? Forget about Trump. Nothing to do with Trump. You think this is good for business in New York? You think this is good for business in America? To take a law that we used to protect people against buying refrigerators at an overpriced value decades ago and apply it against an individual, and then talk about seizing assets like he was in Venezuela or in Cuba? This is a very, very, very bad look for New York. And everybody around the world is watching this. This may be great for the Attorney General, but this is not good for America.
But in terms of the valuation, can you be clear as to why? I mean, why would the properties not be sufficient collateral?
What a great message to send out all around the world. Take a claim where there was no monies lost. There was no fraud here in the context of actually people losing money. Deutsche Bank, who made the loan, was made whole. And let's make a penalty of $500 million against a crime, apparently, where no monies were lost. Great message for New York. Great message for America. Bring your capital because we'll protect your property. I think that was a statement that would be much better made sometime in Venezuela. I'm not kidding. That's a scary, scary message. And by the way, there are no such thing as $500 million bonds. There are no $500 million bonds. Never been done before. Never. This law has never been applied. Forget about Trump. Nothing to do with Trump. Everything to do about America and the New York brand. I love this state. My children live here. A horrible message to everybody around the world watching this. Absolutely horrific.
Well,
This
wait,
case
Kevin,
goes
Kevin,
way
but
past
hold on a
Trump.
second, Kevin.
Trump
What
will
would
be
be
gone one day. This
hold on a
attorney
second.
general will be gone one day, and this
I
is
have a
what you want to
wonderful
tell
voice,
people
and
around
it
the
won't
world.
be talked
This
over.
is how we
Kevin
treat money in
O'Leary,
America.
I would like to
This
hear what you have
is
to
not
say, but
America.
what are you doing?
Not America.
But it's not
Not
America, but it is.
And so old girl was trying to talk over him, and of course it was 2 against 1. But you know, he's absolutely right. Kevin O'Leary, he's thinking about, okay, you're setting a precedence. If you're doing it, anyone that follows after Donald Trump that is aspiring to develop property. Matter of fact, Byron Peoples, the black developer, he's building the skyline, and he's planning to hire um, black construction workers. I think his name is Byron Peoples. Anyway, they could do it to him. You know, you guys put in the chat. Let me know who, if the guy is the name is correct. I believe his name is. I know his last name is Peoples. I forget what his first name, but he's a large real estate developer. I don't think he has over $1 billion assets. I know they're in the works trying to build the largest tower in the world, and it's supposed to be in New York City. And if I was thinking, if I was him, I would be thinking like, okay, now I gotta watch, who I'm dealing with, because I might step on the wrong toes. I might piss somebody off because they don't like me. They don't like me because I'm married, or they don't like me because I'm a man. They don't like me because I'm a black man. They're really crazy stuff. And if they do it to Trump, they could do it to anybody, really. A bond of $461 million. When I go for my contracts, especially city and local government contracts, they require for you to get a bond. And the bond is usually 10% of whatever you quoted them for. And when you go to get the bond is usually from a bond company. Say, for instance, your bid was 40 grand. They would require that you put up 400 grand or $400 because it's only 10%. So they'll give you a bond for 4,000 and for the amount of $400. Okay, so a bond is just basically saying, hey, if you renege on this contract, you have a right to collect that $4,000 bond. Anyway, you're saying that Donald Trump has to have a bond of $465 million. Even though this guy might be rich, how is it possible for him to come up with that bond? That's totally unheard of. And what he mentioned that in this news report.
I don't think
there's another showing Kevin O'Leary. He was talking about AG James can seize assets if Trump misses the deadline. And that's what she's already put that statement out there. Hey, if he can't come up with the bond, we're just going to start seizing his assets and selling them off. And for him to appeal the decision, Apparently, he needs a bond. So they put him in a spot where he's not able to come up with the bond. It's like totally impossible.
The message about the American brand. You think about America, the reason this is the number one economy on earth is that we have laws and we have due process and we have property rights. It attracts foreign capital from all around the world. All of that is being shaken to the core here. The concept of seizing assets in 30 days on a bond number that's never been issued. No insurance bond company's ever issued anything near this, so there was no chance it was going to happen. And only giving 30 days notice and time, that's a really bad message. And I think New Yorkers should think well past Trump. Whether he's president or not, or whether this attorney general is gone in 4 years or not, it's irrelevant. This is case setting against the American brand. The most stable country on earth, anywhere, to put capital to work over a long period of time, particularly in real estate, is the United States of America. This is an assault on what we believe to be core. And I find it extraordinary. I think it's very troubling. It has absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump at this point, in my view, and it is completely bipartisan. This is an attack on America. And I don't know how you can look at it any other way. And as an investor, and I know plenty of investors are completely disturbed by this, but I mean, no one is going to put any money to work in New York in these amounts until this thing settles down. The whole world is watching, and everybody's waiting for one thing we haven't got yet: adult supervision. Where is it? Where are the adults in this crazy narrative? Certainly there's got to be adult supervision at some point. And I understand, you know, the war going on here and all the political yada, yada, woof, woof, woof. But we need an adult in the room now. This is the United States of America under siege.
United States of America and the Banana Republic. I mean, what more can you say about that? One thing I want to point out, the Kevin O'Leary said, oh, people are being scared to get invested into New York, probably for commercial real estate. I believe it's Kevin O'Leary last time he knocked heads with someone on CNN. But it was about Amazon. Amazon halted them building a tower in New York because of the crazy litigation and taxes, I guess they was trying to put on Amazon. So they was like, screw that, we're not going to build here. So they end up sending a tower somewhere else. And they were planning to build a headquarters in New York. This was a couple of years ago. But anyway, New York is doing things that are making people afraid to invest in New York. All but one company. All about one company. And if you guys seen my posts, we are, and I was talking about this yesterday, immigrants, illegal immigrants. They're here for your jobs. You might be saying, oh, Chawanne, nobody wants those jobs. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you're from a small town in Iowa and the meat packing place is the only job in town, you want that damn job. You don't want, somebody getting off from another country to come in over here because they're able to work for a cheaper amount to take those jobs away from you. So Tyson Foods is planning to, make roots or lay down roots or put roots into New York state. Okay, hoping to hire thousands of migrants for labor manufacturing jobs. And I guess someone put out, I'm not for sure how true this is, but Tyson, if you look at their employment, someone was in my comments, if you look at their employment ratio, like 40% already is immigrants. Nothing wrong with immigrants, you guys. Nothing wrong with immigrants as long as they're legal. legal immigrants. But a lot of times when you get a company as large as Tyson, they employ about 100,000 workers. You get to slip through the cracks because they're in this secluded place where the government is not driving to see who's working at these facilities. So a lot of times they're employing people that's really not supposed to be here. So Tyson Foods says it's eager to hire more than 40,000 asylum seekers and migrants arriving in the United States, according to a report from Bloomberg. It's a multinational food conglomerate is allegedly hoping to hire personnel from a massive influx of migrants coming into South America and Central America. And Tyson Foods Iowa pork plant to permanently close, over 1,200 jobs affected. Okay, so they want to employ more people, but they're going to close that plant down, and they're planning to open up a plant in New York. They're saying that they might be shutting other plants, such as Arkansas, Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, and is scheduled to shutter in coming months. Don't know how true that is, and actually, if you go on Tyson's Twitter or X page, they're denying those claims. Well, let's ask the people in Iowa. I'm pretty sure those people in Iowa is saying, "Hey, no, they did give us a termination letter, and we did remember a couple of years ago when COVID was happening, they forced those people to take the vaccine or they wasn't able to work." Just imagine you took a vaccine, and I'm not for or against vaccines. I didn't take it, but you took the vaccine because you wanted to have a job, and 2 years later that job is saying, "Oh, too bad. So sorry for you." And just imagine if you had complications with the vaccination. I'm telling you, these employers are something else. So Tyson Foods is planning to lay down roots in New York only because they want to take advantage of the cheap labor. Okay, you guys don't put in the comments saying, "Oh, nobody wants those jobs." Meat packing place, and I lived in Iowa for my young adolescence years. Meat packing place, they tend to hire the people that won't hire anybody, like the people that's on furlough, work release, those guys that need a job because they've been released from prison. They deserve to be able to take care of themselves. Some young men, they would love to have a $16, $17 hour job. And some of these people, they make about 20 something dollar an hour job. And Iowa, it's not expensive to live. So yeah, that's good living. Okay. You guys put in the comments, let me know what you think. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay. Let me get to some of your chats. I know I've been ignoring you. Addie Ross said, if you undervalue weight, you get in trouble. Yeah, I mean, you damn if you do, damn if you don't. Now businesses are going to start fleeing New York. They could just make up the laws and take your assets anytime with this ruling, calling evil good and good evil. Another thing I want to point out, since they having a problem with placing people or just the housing crisis, that's throughout the nation. There's a problem with the housing crisis. New York laws is kind of weird. As I showed you yesterday, the lady that was trying to evict the individual from squatting in her property, you only had to be there for 30 days. And then she had to take them to court. And at the end of the news report, the guy said it takes at least 2 years for you to actually get a judgment. It's like, you're going to wait that long, and you got to pay for somebody to live in your property for 2 years and they're not paying you anything. To me, that's just really wild and ridiculous. But this is the state of New York. Lexi says, I really hate to think what NYC will look like in 10 years. Probably NYC probably is not going to look too well. Samuel Matthews, I heard Kevin O'Leary don't even like Trump, but he's keeping it real. Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't like Trump. Joe Biden still has never said God bless America since he's been the president. Everything seems to be anti-American under his administration. Because I don't think Joe Biden, I think he's trying to appease to the voters. I don't know if he's Christian or Catholic or whatever type of religion that he is. But a lot of people on the Democrat side, a lot of them just, it's the one all bucket. It's like, okay, I don't want to offend anybody, so I can't register my faith. I can't announce my faith because I'm afraid that this person will be offended. Well, that's totally ludicrous. Okay. That's really ludicrous. I'm offended that you're offended, that I'm offended, that you're offended. I'm literally offended that I can't say, thank you, Jesus, hallelujah, God bless America, because I might offend you. What are you, the devil? Like, come on now. Who else you believe in? The devil? So anyway, if you get offended by that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Truth over everything. Letitia is going after a New York beef producer for their business doing good. They want us to eat them bugs. You know what? Somebody was telling me that. Hannibal is hungry. Hey, Hannibal, thanks for tuning in. AOC helped destroy the Amazon deal. I believe, yeah, that was AOC, wasn't it? She helped destroy the AOC because she believed that people shouldn't have, she don't believe in capitalism, AOC. She believes in, hey, I want to, what do you want to call it? Everyone steals to maybe eat some bread to feed their family, but they're still in like these high-end things, so it's kind of ridiculous. Okay, so let's get to our next story of the hour. I want to share with you Elon Musk and Don Lemon's interview. Very interesting. Their exchange was very interesting. I came to the conclusion Don Lemon wasn't hired or wasn't brought to X platform because of his great interviewing skills or anything like that. I believe after the interview, Elon Musk thought like, oh, what a idiot. I really do think that Elon Musk probably was like, this dude, it will be a nightmare to work with. The sense of entitlement on him. So let me just share this with you.
Of why I am endorsing one or the
Okay, so at this point of the interview, they went through, you guys seen where they exchanged. He's talked about ketamine. One part of the interview, they talked about the Tesla, what they could expect on the Tesla, the new Roadster, and Elon Musk was talking about that. They talked about Donald Trump endorsement. Elon Musk, I don't even think he cares too much for Donald Trump. He's not endorsing Donald Trump. But he went to lunch at a friend's house and Donald Trump was there. And so Elon Musk, Don Lemon tried to pry into about that conversation, but he said it's nothing out of the ordinary I want to talk about. Okay, it was just some lunch or breakfast with friends. Anyway, but I do want to get to the point where Don Lemon tried to reference the great replacement theory. I'm assuming Elon Musk tweeted about immigrants, illegal immigrants coming over, and referenced the great replacement theory. And he tried to make it where Elon Musk was talking about anti-Semitism. Don't know where he got that from, but this is, I'm warning you guys. If your IQ was this much, it will be this much after this interview. It's very hard to watch.
There is an incentive here. If legal immigrants, which I think have a very strong bias to, at least everything I've read, it's a very strong bias to vote Democrat. The more that come into the country, the more they're likely to vote in that direction. But it is, in my view, a simple incentive to increase voters, Democrat voters. And yeah, so your question is like how? So there's a few ways that this works. One is that when the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not. So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state or in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats. So the House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens. So the illegals overwhelmingly go to places like California and New York, and if you just look at the math, if you look at the apportionment with and without illegals, I believe California would lose. I believe the blue state, there would be a net loss of blue states of approximately 20 seats in the House. This also applies to the Electoral College. So you say, well, this also applies to electing the president, because the electoral votes are also done by apportionment the same way that House seats are done.
But the reason, Elon, the Electoral College is in place is to balance that, so that doesn't happen. So what you're saying about it is the exact opposite of the reason why the Electoral College is there. The Electoral College at this point in our history gives people who are in smaller states and red states much more of an influence over our elections than people who are in blue states, and the majority of the people in this country. That's what the Electoral College does. It actually does the exact opposite of what you're saying. It protects people who are in smaller states and protects people who are in red states.
Well,
the red states, because they tend to be smaller and less populous.
I think that statement is what you said is true, but what I said is also true, which is that if as is the case, a disproportionate number of legal immigrants go to blue states, they amplify the effect of a blue state vote. And the math, as I understand it, you can research this obviously very easily on it. It's pretty straightforward to research this. But my understanding is that there would be that the Democrats would lose approximately 20 seats in the House if illegals were not counted in the census, and that's also 20 less electoral votes for president. So illegals absolutely do affect who controls the House and who controls the presidency. It does not affect the Senate.
Yeah. In blue states, you're talking about. I
Yes.
don't believe that your information on that is right. So listen, let's talk more about the Great Replacement, because the first time you posted on X about this Jewish conspiracy, you ended up
I
apologizing.
didn't call it a conspiracy. I just said that there's a simple matter of incentives. You don't need a conspiracy when you have basic incentives. In my view, there's a basic incentive that's fundamental that for the Democrat Party to foster and usher in a large number of illegals. Yeah. And you don't need a conspiracy in that case, because you have a very basic incentive. You could say I'm wrong about that incentive, but that's my view. I'm not buying some great replacement theory. I'm simply saying there appears to be a very clear incentive for Democrats to maximize the number of illegals because it helps them win elections.
I'm talking about the Great Replacement theory is also part of a Jewish conspiracy theory. And when you did the tweet, or you responded to the tweet about that, you ended up apologizing, and which I think is, it's good that you ended up apologizing. You went to Auschwitz with Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Right? So you said you learned your lesson. What did you learn?
I said I learned my lesson.
You said you learned your lesson when you apologized, and you said you went to Auschwitz. You saw what about that. You ended up apologizing.
I wanted to pause it right here because I wanted to read what he was saying. Okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectal hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit now about Western Jewish populations coming to disturbing. And he said, you have said, Elon Musk replied, you have said the actual truth. I mean, yeah, we could say, you know, if you talk about Jewish people, even though, matter of fact, Candace Owens had an exchange with this rabbi, and they are actually friends. And he's saying anti-Semitic definition changes over time. And it's like, okay, what are you saying? It's not a set definition. But anyway, so listen to this point right here. He's trying to reference Jewish, the replacement theory with, you know, what happened back in with the Holocaust with what they're doing now. That I don't understand how he made that correlation, but this is Don Lemon.
Apologizing, and which I think is, you know, it's good that you ended up apologizing. You went to Auschwitz with Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Right? So you said you learned your lesson. What did you learn?
I said I learned my lesson.
You said you learned your lesson when you apologized, and you said you went to Auschwitz. You saw what.
No, I was already aware of these things. And the nature of my comment that really inflamed people, what I was trying to say, and I did very quickly clarify, this is what I'm saying, is that a number of prominent Jewish philanthropists fund groups that they should really take a closer look at funding, because some of the groups they fund, I think, are anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Do you understand the connection between the two? There's a connection between, you said Democrats, the Great Replacement Theory, but when it comes to the actual Great Replacement Theory, originally it was started about Jewish people, as you said, flooding in the country, and then now people are using it for Democrats, saying the same thing about Democrats. Flooding.
In my view, it's a simple matter of incentives.
Yeah.
I actually don't see an incentive for Jewish people to want to have legal immigration. I don't think there is such an incentive.
Yeah. The Great Replacement Theory is a neo-Nazi trope. It's in the neo-Nazi manifesto. It's in the Turner Diaries. It's referenced by the Buffalo mass shooter in his manifesto, where 10 people, black people, were murdered in Buffalo. His actual title is the Christchurch Shooters Manifesto. 51 people in the Muslim mosque were murdered. 23 people murdered in El Paso by a shooter who used the same language that you use in that manifesto when you say Hispanic invasion. Is that not?
I didn't say an Hispanic invasion.
You quoted a tweet that called it a Hispanic invasion.
If I quote something, it doesn't mean I agree with everything in it. It's just something that I think this is something worth people should consider.
Why would you quote something that you didn't believe?
Because anything I quote is going to have a whole range of statements. It doesn't mean I agree with everything in it.
Do you think if you moderated yourself more, if there was better content moderation on the platform, that you wouldn't have to answer these questions from reporters about the Great Replacement Theory as it relates to
I don't have to answer these questions.
Great Replacement Theory as it relates to Jewish people? Do you think that?
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble, or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm criticized constantly. I could care less.
You don't care?
No, I don't.
Why
care.
not?
I don't think people should care what the media thinks about them. They're terrible judges of character.
Even someone who has one of the biggest social media and biggest information platforms in the world, you don't care? You don't think that you have any X.com, or you have any responsibility to the truth or moderating the platform?
You're conflating the truth with the media, and I think the media is not truthful.
Well, not with just the media. I mean, just the truth in general.
I care about the truth very much. That's why we have, for example, community notes on the X system, where in order for a community note to surface and provide corrective information about what somebody posts, and my posts are equally subject to this. I've been community noted many times. In order for a community note to surface, people who have historically disagreed must agree in order for a community note to surface. And all of the code for community notes is open source. All of the data is open source, so you can completely recreate it from scratch. The way to build trust is transparency.
I have noticed community notes. I think that you are right about that, and I do think community notes are helpful.
So at this point, they're talking about community notes because Don Lemon, he really feels like if you say something mainly racist, that they should be taken off the platform. Well, not the person, but the post should be taken down. Any type of hate speech. But he pulls up hate speech from, random people that don't have a following. And so Elon Musk gets into the point where, well, if nobody's going to see it, we don't really monitor those smaller accounts unless someone kept on saying, oh, look at this problem, look at this problem. Then they'll spring into action. But community notes is basically a fact checker. And if you post some type of false information, community notes will come in there and say, no, this is false, blah, 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 blah. And then they'll post the link to whatever they're saying this is false. They just been doing that since COVID. Anywho, Don Lemon, he only agrees with content moderation if it is relegated to the other party. For him, he doesn't believe, because he thinks he's right on everything, which is kind of sad, you know, because just because you don't agree with somebody's point of view, even if they're racist, and that's what Elon Musk's point is. Even if this person is racist, it's not against the law for them to say, oh, the N-word is really, it might hurt your feelings, like you porch monkey. I mean, of course, I'm laughing about it. It's not really that funny, but I mean, it might hurt your feelings, but is it really against the law? Now, if they spring into action saying some really hateful comments saying, die, you know, I'm going to, you know, cause harm to you. Okay. Of course, they need to monitor that, because you're making threats to people. But just calling somebody a name, that's not a threat. Anyway, but this is what Don Lemon is getting at.
Well, I think any type of content moderation, I do think that's helpful. You recently called content moderation, though, a digital chastity belt. Do you think that you believe that X and you have some responsibility to moderate hate speech on the platform?
I think we have a responsibility to adhere to the law, and we have a responsibility to be transparent about when things are shown, why they're shown. So that's why we open source our algorithm. I think once you start going beyond the law, now you're putting your thumb on the scale. And we don't want to put our thumb on the scale.
It doesn't concern you that hate speech has gone. Research shows that it's gone up on the platform since you took over. That's not concerning to you?
I believe that is false. In fact, the research that I've seen says it went down.
The study from the Institute of Strategic Dialogue found that anti-Semitic tweets doubled from June 22 to February 2023. One study reported that as many as 86% of the posts reported for hateful content remained up after being reported. Hate speech on the platform is up.
So what they will typically do is they will count the number of posts, but not count the number of views. So what matters is, was that post given high visibility, or did like one person see it? And if you look at the number of views, of how many times was hate content viewed on our platform, it is down substantially.
Yeah. Well, that's not what the study shows. And you said you like transparency. I'm going to show you this. And
Don, you can get a study that will tell you whatever you want.
But these are just a handful of extremely, if you look at those anti-Semitic and racist.
So, you know, anti-Semitic and racist quotes or whatever. And so he points this out. And you could tell Elon Musk is getting really irritated because he doesn't understand the concept of censorship versus things not being legal. He doesn't understand that concept. He thinks this is illegal. This thing right here, somebody making this nasty post, is illegal. Is not in good taste. Is harmful. Yes, it's harmful because it might hurt your feelings, but is it really illegal? So I think Don was confusing about illegal and censorship. He's trying to put them in the same bucket.
And as of this morning, they're still on X. And from your own content policy, these posts should have been deleted. So why haven't they been deleted? Why are they still there?
We delete things if they are illegal.
But these have been up there for a while.
Are they illegal?
They're not illegal, but they're hateful, and they can lead to violence. As I just read to you, the shooters, you know, in all of these mass shootings, attributed social media to radicalizing.
So Don, you love censorship, is what you're saying?
No, I don't love censorship.
Then why are you asking?
I believe in moderation, but I don't believe in
censorship. Moderation is a propaganda word for censorship.
But don't you think free speech is one thing, right? Or not, you know.
Look, if something's illegal, we're going to take it down. If it's not illegal, then we're putting our thumb on the scale and we're being censors.
You're putting your thumb on the scale for moderating hate speech. I mean, you don't put out child pornography. That's not.
It's illegal.
Some people would say that's considered censorship. I'm just saying.
No, I literally, Don, you know, I literally said if something is legal, okay, we will obviously remove it.
Okay.
But if it is not legal, the laws in this country are put forward by the citizens. We're a democracy. If those laws put in place by the people, we adhere to those laws.
Okay,
And we adhere to the
agreed.
laws of others. If you go beyond the law, you're actually going beyond the will of the people.
Okay, agreed with the law. But if you are doing something that promotes hate and violence and ultimately leads to killing, you don't feel you have any responsibility not to do that?
But he's not doing it. This is what Don Lemon doesn't understand. I own a platform, a social media platform. I say, hey, this platform is for free speech. I'm not going to say only free speech because if you talking a right talking point or a left talking point, no, it's free speech for everybody's speech. Now, he tried to refer or inference pedophilia. That's illegal, Don. That's totally illegal. And so this is why I think Don Lemon wasn't extended a contract with X. This last part I want to show you guys. Now, this is really crazy. Diversity and inclusion, you know, they've been trying to get rid of diversity and inclusion for, I guess, the longest. You know, they passed something with SCOTUS. What was it, last year or the beginning of this year? They passed affirmative action for universities, and, you know, people had the outrage. Elon Musk takes on diversity and inclusion. He said you wouldn't need diversity and inclusion if you're not trying to lower the standards. Hey, I have this standard. You have to pass the bar exam. You have to pass the medical board exam in order for you to be able to practice. You have to have a certain LSAT score in order for you to get on this university. He's saying don't lower your standards. And if whoever gets to come in, they gets to come in based off of their scores and standards, or, you know, their ability to achieve. Don Lemon doesn't see that. He just sees, oh, you're trying to keep Black people from doing what we're called to do, I guess. This exchange, like I said, if your IQ was up here, it's going to be down here.
So listen, let's talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right, that's been a target of yours lately on X. There was a repost of Ben Shapiro that you claim that DEI is killing people. Specifically, you point to medicine. You claim that DEI programs are putting people at risk. Do you really believe this to be true? And what evidence do you have to support it?
What I was referring to there was that if we lower the standards for doctors, so that they, you know, if the test for a doctor is lowered, then the probability of them making a mistake and killing someone is obviously going to be higher.
Wait, say that again. I'm not sure I understand what you said. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yes, if the standards for passing medical exams and becoming a doctor, or especially something like a surgeon, if the standards are lowered, then the probability that the surgeon will make a mistake is higher. They're making mistakes in their exam. They may make mistakes with people, and that may result in people dying.
What evidence do you have, though, that they're lowering the standards? There is no evidence of that.
I believe there is.
There's no evidence of that, Elon. What is the evidence?
I believe they have literally lowered the standards at Duke University, and that is what the article was referring to.
There's no
evidence.
Saying
they have not lowered the standards?
There's no evidence about lowering standards, and I think that there is.
I believe that is a false statement you're making.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I think
the interesting thing is when this is posted on the X platform, it will be a whole bunch of things that rebut what you said and what I said, and so people can then make their own decision based on the replies and the rebuttals and the community notes.
I think that's fair, but I do think that on this particular topic, I do think that you and Ben Shapiro are reaching in about this, because there was what Ben posted said that he gave instances of people who were deliberately harming people. Nowhere in the thread does Ben suggest at all, I should say, that anyone is being killed as a result of DEI. That's purely speculative. There's research on DEI and medicine, and there's no evidence that standards are being lowered, that DEI is affecting medicine. Actually, only 5% of doctors are Black, and a small percent.
Yeah, well, I think you'll find that when this is posted to the X platform, that people will reply to it with evidence.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see.
Okay. So, but That's my whole thing about moderation. Maybe you're wrong, but you'll put it out there. You don't know if it's right. Do you think that your responsibility to make sure something is right before you, the person who owns it, Elon Musk, is a huge figure in the world, that you should know that it's true, that there are people at X who can get research for you before you put something out there like that? That's not necessarily true, even in other examples.
If I say something that is inaccurate, I'm immediately corrected on the platform. That's the advantage of a real-time system like X. So there'll be immediately in the replies people correcting me. There'll be a community note that will correct me, which is attached to the actual post itself.
Do you think as many people read the?
Yes.
You think as many people read that as it reads your tweet?
Yes, in fact, and if there's a community note that happens later that where somebody didn't see, but they replied to that, or interacted with that post, we will notify them that there is now a community note correcting that post.
Just so you.
Whereas if you consider the conventional media, that doesn't happen. Conventional media makes false statements all the time and nobody ever hears the correction.
When I was in conventional media, I can only speak for myself. If I got something wrong, if someone got something wrong on the platform that I was on, it was corrected, and we made sure that it was corrected.
Why you lying, Don? Don lying through his damn teeth now. Now you just saying you're trying to hold Elon Musk accountable for other people posts, him retweeting a post. You're just trying to act like mainstream media is way better than X, and it's not. It's not way better. I believe Elon Musk is referring to this Duke University Affordable Action Plan. They're trying to waive tuition for lower income students, which is not a bad thing. But the potential, let me just show this. This was back in June 28, 2023. And it's saying it's lowering their income for North and South Carolinians and officially about equity, but its potential as a recruitment tool for underserved students connects it to affirmative action fates. So I'm assuming that they're trying to seek out more people that's in lower income. Now, just because you from a lower income area, that don't mean you have the smart or you don't have the smart to attend to these universities. I think it's advantageous for people, especially if you own a company, to look at other areas that you might not look into, especially if you're a larger company, to seek out talent. Now, if you're saying, oh, we're going to lower our standards, even though, and you went to that area and you tend not to find good talent, I don't blame the university or the company to say, oh, no, we don't want to, every time we get a person from that area or from that school, it doesn't turn out. They don't fit in our culture. They don't fit in our company. It doesn't turn out well. I don't blame companies for not wanting to look in other areas, but are they lowering their standards for them to get a job there? Don't know. I don't know. But now there have been a report. Matter of fact, it was recently, I think it was United Airlines saying, oh, we're going to make a commitment to hire 20% of females, female pilots. Well, you're just saying that you're going to hire 100% of your female pilots that's in the program. That's basically what you're saying, because a lot of females don't want to be pilots. So you're saying you want 20% of your pilots to be females. That's just 100% of them. So you're just going to pass them along? That's the problem with DEI. We want this benchmark of 20 to 30% of these set of people, but you only have so many that is at the 30% benchmark. Then you're gonna just say, oh, we're gonna pass these people along. It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, Elon, he doesn't understand that.
Do you believe that people are dying because medical standards, DEI is causing medical standards to be lowered? Do you actually believe people are dying because of that?
I believe that if we lower the standards for what it takes to become a doctor.
You're saying if we lower the standards, yes. But do you believe people are dying because the standards are being lowered?
I don't think that is yes an issue, but it could become an issue.
Okay. But the actual evidence in history shows the exact opposite. If you look at how minorities are treated by the medical system, Most doctors now are white, and there are lots of mistakes. And
this is not the point. You're saying lower the standards, and you're saying white people are mistreating black people because of racism. That's not the same thing as, hey, they got into medical school and they know these standards. It's not the same thing. See, and the problem with Don, he's trying to make everything about race, and everything is not about race. If you're talking about DEI and lowering the standard, okay, for minorities, women, that's one thing. But you're saying, hey, we black folks are mistreated in the healthcare system because of these, and they're dying every day. You don't have any proof of that. Now, we do have proof that in motherhood, women, black women tend to have problems with labor more than, their white counterpart. There is some substantial proof of that. But you're trying to put race, saying that, oh, there's a bunch of white doctors and they're just black people dying every day. And it's like, that's not your conversation. You started off with DEI. Where are you going with this? I don't understand. And this is why you see Elon's face. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? You went from DEI to saying, hey, these racist doctors out here, they're killing black folks. It's like, come on.
medicine. So you're saying that white doctors have bad medical care? I'm trying to understand your logic here when it comes to DEI, because there's no actual evidence of what you're saying.
No, I said, so if the standards, let's say, I think that particular thing was referring to surgeons. Let's say a surgeon is asked to, a surgeon in training is asked to do a series of operations under the supervision of a senior surgeon, and they get a bunch of those operations wrong. If that happens, and if they are still approved to be a surgeon, the probability that someone will die, I think, at some point is high.
Okay, I understand that, but that's a hypothetical. That doesn't mean it's happening.
I didn't say it's happening.
I think it is happening, because if you go into these other countries, well, let's go to these surgical places where they're getting the BBL. These doctors, something wrong with them, because you agreed to give a high risk surgery to a person that probably shouldn't even go under surgery. If we pull their medical, I guess, board certification, this one doctor, they lowered his standards, and he shouldn't even be practicing. He done killed about 3 people. This was in Atlanta or Miami somewhere. This one particular doctor, the girl that was not Flex, but he's a comedian. His wife died from complications like last year because she went to go get a mommy mini makeover. And he done killed 3 people before he got to her. He shouldn't even have a license. So what are we saying? So but Don Lemon tried to make it about, are you saying all these people that kill black people, I guess because of racism, they lowered the standards for them? And you see how confused Elon Musk is. It's like, this is a conversation that's going nowhere, Elon. He's not going to get it. He's trying to put 2 different subjects in one, and it's not the same subject.
You didn't say it was happening.
I said it will. But I said if we lower standards, people will die.
But why respond to something or put something out there that has not happened? Because I could say,
I don't want it to happen. I think we don't want to lower standards.
Okay, if you look at the history of the medical industry, especially when it comes to Black Americans, it shows the exact opposite. If you look at the Tuskegee experiment and on, only 5% of doctors in America are Black. All of them are white. So are you saying that if the majority of doctors are white, are you saying that and there's still these inequities, right? And there's still mistakes. Are you blaming DEI for that?
No, I'm very basically saying that if we lower standards for what it takes to become a board-certified surgeon or an oncologist or something where the kind of disease we're talking about, if you make a mistake, causes someone to die, then more people will die than if we don't lower the standards. Therefore, we should not lower the standards.
But why do you think they're lowering the standards for minority doctors or women doctors or?
That's what that's what that article suggested. Yes, at Duke University.
Okay. The evidence that I have shows that that's not true. So listen, after the door blew off this mid-flight in this Alaskan Airlines flight, do you remember that? You responded to a post claiming that the average HBCU grad was less intelligent than the average airline pilot, and stated that it will take an airplane crashing and killing hundreds of people for them to change this crazy policy of DIE. I don't know if did you misspell it on purpose, which should be DEI. Do you believe that women and minority pilots are inherently less intelligent and less skilled than white male pilots?
No, I'm just saying that we should not lower the standards for them.
Okay, but there's no evidence that standards are being lowered when it comes to the airline industry.
You've repeatedly said that there's no evidence that standards are being lowered, and watch the replies showing all the evidence that it is.
Replies, though, on social media or on Twitter are not necessarily fact and evidence.
No,
that's people's
They
opinion.
will cite
okay.
In the replies to this, you will see how often the information is cited showing that indeed there are significant cases where standards are lowered.
And I do hope that happens. I do hope that happens, and I look forward to it. And as you said, if you're wrong, then you're wrong, and if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
Yes.
Okay. So and I'm glad we're having this conversation, debate. This is what we should be doing, debating the issue. So
Right.
if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and then they'll be proven in the thing, and you as well. But I just want to tell you that pilot that you talked about, in fact, was a woman pilot, landed the plane safely despite the major malfunction with the equipment. Boeing has taken responsibility for that incident, saying that it was caused by a faulty door panel. So I'm not sure what that had to do with lowering the standards for pilots when it was a faulty.
No, it's not lowering standards for pilots. It's the incentive structure. I believe at Boeing changed to include DEI as a fundamental executive incentive. But in my view, it should be purely about passenger safety.
Okay, but do you understand how by saying just that standards are being lowered, that you're implying that they're being lowered because people are less skilled and less intelligent, and you're talking about people of color and or women?
Emphatically, I do think that they've been lowering the standards for some, and I'm not for sure about doctors or lawyers, or even engineering, but like even firefighter, you have women firefighters, even the military. They've lowered the standards for that, so I think Don Lemon is just being disingenuous. Right now he's just trying to get Elon Musk to admit to something that he's not going to admit to. He's trying to act like Elon Musk is being racist, and no, Elon Musk is just saying, hey, no, these are standards that we should adhere to. And I don't think we should lower the standards because of DEI. And when you're saying that, hey, we're going to seek out, like that airline company, I think it was United Airlines, we're going to seek out 30% of our staff is going to be minorities, or 30% of our pilots will be minorities or women or whatever. And if you only have 100 women applying and 1,000 pilots total, or 2,000 or 3,000 pilots total, are you saying that you're just going to pass those ladies through just to meet those standards? That's what he's talking about. When you make these DEI claims and metrics and benchmarkings or goals to make your company look like you're just diverse, this is the problem. It's better for you to be, just have your standards so you won't make any mistakes and nobody will end up passing away. Have your set standards. And then when you take a company picture, I used to work for an oil company. If you go on their oil company website, it's look very diverse, and it's not. It's not. Just take a picture and say, and then when you get hired in, like, this shit ain't diverse at all. Y'all don't got no meat, and y'all don't got no women. Y'all don't got no black people. It's like, and you the only one. That's all companies, because you got to really think about it. And I'm in the engineering field. Back when I graduated, women engineers, especially chemical engineering, we probably had maybe 3%. It was 3% of Black women engineers, 3%. So just out of 100 people, 3 of you guys will be Black and a woman. Did you pass the EIT? Now, some companies didn't ask you to pass the EIT, but uh, I don't know why Elon Musk would say this. I don't know how true it is. He said Black universities are less intelligent than, people just every day from another university. But at A&T, we graduated, well, we passed the EIT exam at a 90% graduation rate or passing rate. So we didn't only take the, test to graduate from there. We had to take the entrance engineering and training exam, which was a day-long exam, and it was hard as hell. So anyway, I'm saying all this to say this. I don't think you should lower your standards for anybody. I don't care how you feel, especially if it's your company, especially if safety is involved. If engineering, people's lives are involved, they shouldn't lower their standards. If they can't make it past the buck, and if they don't have the grit and the brain power to pass these exams and pass 8 year of studies, for some people to be a doctor, if you want to be a surgeon, the residency is 8 years, then you don't need to be. You can't pass the medical exam, you don't need to be in the medical field. Or they allow you to keep on testing until you pass it, just like the bar exam. So anyway, they get more into like trans rights and woke mind virus and all that stuff. I don't want to talk, Don Lemon, and he makes my brain hurt. He makes my brain hurt. He makes my brain hurt. Okay, so let me just get to some of your tweets. Lexi says Don never shows his evidence. He just tells Musk he wrong. And yeah, and even when he was on CNN, he had people he disagreed with. Particularly, I could recall before he got fired, Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy was bringing up how the Second Amendment right is important, especially to Black folks, and he didn't like it. He was saying that you mean to tell me that Black people was fighting to get a gun, and he was trying to make reference. No, they wasn't really fighting to get a gun, Don. They were fighting for the same. Black folks, Civil War was fighting for the same rights, so we can have equal rights as the your white counterpart. If your white counterpart, he's able to hold the Second Amendment right, then a Black person should be able to do the same. We was thought of less than a person, So anyway, and he got really irritated. Then he called him out of his name. He said, whatever race you are, just being very disrespectful. He didn't get too disrespectful with Elon. He gave him a lot of pushback, and he acted like he just didn't understand what Elon was talking about. He thought Elon Musk was actually speaking a foreign language, which was, it's like, no, it's like common sense. He wasn't really saying some SpaceX stuff. It was just really common sense things that he was talking about. Kelvin is saying he doesn't like being challenged. Samuel J said, I doubt every news he's spitting out at this point. Yeah, I think he's lying because he's such a baby. Kim B said, DI is not meant for companies to hire or for schools to admit those that don't meet the standards. Please don't pull our race backwards due to lack of knowledge. No, DEI is not meant for, it's meant to give. Back then, it was meant to give the opportunities to minorities because they wasn't afforded the opportunities, but they didn't lower the standards then. They didn't. Back then, they were actually being discriminated against. That's why DEI exists today. But they don't use that in the same manner as they do today. And they don't. They don't use DEI in the same manner as they do today. Just like Amari says, military and police have lowered their standards for women to be included. Kim, you probably mad because of that. They lowered their stand. Military, police, and firefighters. You got more women firefighters. Not to say women can't be firefighters, but I was looking at this picture the other day. They had a woman as small as me. I'm 125 pounds. Now I lift weights, but I believe to pass that firefighter exam, you need to be able to lift the body and climb down a ladder and pull up these long hoses. Like I said, I always been a tough woman, but I doubt that you have women that's able to pass that exam in the time limit that they need to pass it in. And this is what the where that feminism go out the rails. We're created equal with men, and we're not physically capable to do what some men do. We got some strong back women, but most women, they're not physically capable or able-bodied to do what men are able to do. And I always tell this story every time I go to work out, and we have this benchmark thing. I go to a place where they do circuits, and it's a group session. You work out with people that you see every day because you go to the same gym, but you don't necessarily know their name. These older guys in there, they like in their 60s, and they running marathons. They running circles around the younger people. It's like, so there is, like, even in your older age, and men, if they stay, physically inclined, they're able to keep up with some of young ladies that are athletes. So Lemon always been a lemon. Yeah, he has. Kim B said, let's not hate on our own. We had enough of that. Elon is out for himself. I had to close my Twitter account because he spiraled it into trash pit. This is what Elon was saying. And this is what Don is not saying. You're saying it's a trash pit because of free speech. You think because I don't like to hear this talking point, because I disagree with it, it's trash. Not necessarily so. This is just saying a person has a different viewpoint than you. Everybody is not a monolith. They may not agree with you, and if you feel like you need DEI to get ahead, I think it's a rude awakening. You're missing something within yourself. You need to be on top of your game. Make sure you just on top of your game, and you're doing it to the best of your ability. I try to go back, because since I'm in my 40s, I try to go back to see, when I've experienced racism. When I was working in my engineering job, I think at one point I experienced racism, and I went through that. And then prior to that, probably on one time I experienced racism. Any other time I could just look and to see if I didn't get a job or if I didn't get an opportunity. I don't even say it was racism. I say, oh, I should have did this during the interview, or I messed up on that, or something like that. I never blame the person because they were a white person. It's just never been in me to say, oh, they didn't give me that job because I'm white. It's like I never thought of that. And I never looked to diversity and inclusion to say, oh, I'm going to get a job for this, or because of this, because of the color of my skin. Because I don't want you to give me a job because I'm the color of my skin or because I'm a woman. That means that you've lowered your standards. Anyway. We got to agree to disagree, Kim. Samuel J. Lemon needs everyone to be racist so he could get back on CNN. Carolyn Cruz says, wow, Elon. I was appalled with the look he was giving Don in the interview. Like, who are you to ask me any questions? Don was professional and did his job and asked the questions what he all need to know the answers to. I'm not for sure. Carolyn Cruz said, I'm shutting Twitter down. Lexi says, it can be no one is hating on anyone. We're just having a conversation. That is all. Kim B says, minorities and women are just as good. If there is nothing in place to ensure that we get a fair chance, the white man won't let it happen. Trust, minorities and women have to perform at 150% in I'm assuming in everything that you do. I'm not for sure about that. Look at Don Lemon. Don Lemon is not performing. Don Lemon made $10 million a year. And the whole entire time he was a bitch at CNN. You guys, let me just find that story, what I covered on Don Lemon a long time ago. A while ago, when Don Lemon got fired, a YouTube view channel. Don Lemon got fired a while back, and it came out that Don Lemon is pretty evil. He's a pretty evil person in a prima donna videos. And he basically was mad because one lady, and I mentioned this a couple of times, one lady ended up getting this interview that he wanted to do. And he starts sending hate messages, calling her on her phone, hanging up, and all kinds of crazy stuff. Let's see if I can find Don Lemon. When did Don Lemon get fired? I think he got fired this year, right? Or was it last year? Anyway, he got fired one of these not too long ago. But I was trying to find it. Oh, this is it. This is when Don loses it. This was about 10 months ago. But maybe I didn't make a separate video of it. But Don Lemon ended up, doing some really nasty things to this lady. Now, I do agree with you, Kim. Black folks are talented. We're very brilliant. We're very talented. And I believe you have some IQ Black folks and you have some low IQ Black folks, just the same as white people in every other race. Some people work at a higher IQ. Some people are sciencey. Some people are mathematical geniuses. Some people are just, they're able to do some amazing things. But that's with all races. I just don't think our country is at a point that we haven't decided, and I'm saying this because based off of the population, we haven't decided not to look at race. I just don't believe that. I believe that a lot of companies, even Elon Musk, he hired a woman for X, a liberal woman on top of that. And everybody was giving him shit about it. But he hired her because I believe he looked at, oh, she might be the best person for the job. So I just can't. And you your comments saying that Don Lemon, you know, he's out for himself. Of course, if you have a company, you got to think about the survivability of your company. But I think I believe that some people are trying to make what's the guy's name, Elon Musk, racist, and he's not. He's not a racist person. He just don't believe in DEI, and I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. Now, when you get a company, you could hire just as many Black folks as you want to. You know, make it all diverse. Just make it just as diverse. But you know, a lot of people, and I say this a lot with our own community is so racist with each other. We're like a really racist group of people. You would find Black companies that won't even hire any white people. They'll be strictly Black. But you could say that they're being racist. Where's the diversity and inclusion in their company? Or can we just say their company is in a demographics where potentially most of their people are Black in that area? When I have my store, I live in a predominantly white neighborhood. All the people that worked for me was white. They could have said I was racist. Matter of fact, this is another, I didn't take it the wrong way. People would come into my store and they were like, oh, let me speak to the owner. And since I look young and I'm a Black woman, I wouldn't even say because I was Black. I would just say because I look young. Oh, you're the owner? Yeah, I'm the owner. You know, so it's like those type of things that we could say, oh, Black folks is racist, but I mean, we don't want to get called out for some bullshit. So, I mean, it's two sides of the aisle. We can't just say hold somebody feet to the fire and it's just, one-sided. Anyway. But Kim, you're still on Don is an intelligent Black man. I don't know. Kim. You got me on that one. You got me on that one. Don is not intelligent. Lexi, it started in school with everyone passes. They tried to send my son on to the next game without knowing the work. I put my foot down and made him stay back in the subject. He failed. Good for you, Lexi. I was just talking to a parent. And when I went to my hairdresser, and she was saying that she was gonna make her kids stay back. She was like, she refuses for them to pass my kid along. And everybody was like, well, he's young, he might well stay back. They like, he's 14 going into second grade. He's still 6 or 7. Make him stay back. And they will thank you later. Maybe he's not mature enough or whatever, or he not grasping the subject. It's okay to hold your kids back. You got to make the school board stay accountable because they're not. They'll push your child along. You thinking your kids could read and they can't. Omari, I don't care what race Don is. He's a race baiter that pushes propaganda. Exactly. Carolyn Cruz, you think Don Lemon is a smart man. Passion children that shouldn't be passed has nothing to do with DEI. Okay. But DEI gone extreme. Like I said, Kim, you got to go through my channel and look at these DEI videos that I've done. There's one video that this lady, she was a director in California, and a bunch of a panel of minority teachers, these are educators, saying, oh, I think you shouldn't correct children on their dialect, or if they say a wrong word. because, and she used the example, ask. I guess some kids say ax. Never heard, but I guess it depends on if your parents say ax. And so she was like, you might hurt their feelings. You shouldn't correct them. No. This is why DEI goes off the rails. Now you saying Black folks, you should let them keep saying the wrong word. And when they get to 6th or 7th grade, or even in 8th grade or 9th grade, they saying ax, and the teacher looking at them like, you really saying ax? And they probably spelling the word AXS. And nobody corrected them. So now kids are probably teasing them. They went through all their life and no teacher corrected them on the correct saying. I didn't tell my kids to go to school because I want them to talk like me, because I talk country. No, I want them to go to school and talk proper English. That's the whole purpose of going to school. I want my kids to do way better than I am. So that's where DEI goes off the rails. They think Black folks, oh my God, you can't correct them because you might hurt their feelings. No, you're supposed to correct them. Anyway, our school system sucks. That's the way they want it. Who in favor of defending education? No one should be, but an uneducated electorate will work for those trying to retain power. Capiche said, capiche. This wasn't an interview. This was a deposition. Kathy Fields said the voter turnout was low. Are you talking about in Thornton Township? Because she was trying to push the fund for mental health services. Lexi says, why is the limit going after the rappers if he's so worried about violence? I don't know. Just look at the airline industry. DEI is dangerous. Kennard the DJ says, Don gonna end up with Club Shay Shay in a do-rag. Get him the girl boots. You guys. Oh, this a self-hating channel? No, this ain't no self-hating channel. Keep getting kicked out of your life. This is not a self-hating channel. This is a love everybody channel. As long as you love America. You know, we love everybody here. It's insulting to Blacks who work hard for position. It's like telling them they don't have to work hard, that they will be hired based off of color alone. Exactly. Inmate 39, New York. I don't agree with the KKK or the Nazi Party. However, I believe in their right of free speech. Yes. You have to, just because you don't agree with somebody, that don't mean they should be kicked off the platform or censored or anything like that. You just don't agree with them. You know? But you can't steer away from them. You know, you don't have to be in their company. Anyway, you guys, I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. This has been a very fruitful event. You guys remember tomorrow, we're starting at 1:30. So we'll be live tomorrow. I believe I'll have some more information on, I believe Donald Trump and what is going on in New York. And I wanted to talk about Chicago again. So that's what we'll talk about tomorrow. Anywho, I'm sending all my good to you. I will talk to you tomorrow.